Japan is often portrayed as a stagnant economy, a cautionary tale of aging and deflation. But beneath this surface lies a complex narrative of resilience and reinvention. Following the devastation of World War II, Japan orchestrated an economic miracle, transforming into the world's second-largest economy through unparalleled industrial policy and corporate discipline. Today, it faces unprecedented demographic headwinds and massive public debt. Yet it remains a quiet powerhouse in robotics, advanced manufacturing, and global finance. In this documentary, we explore the rise, the stagnation, and the current technological reinvention of Japan. Is the land of the rising sun setting, or is it simply charting a new course for advanced economies? Let us examine the data.
The foundation of modern Japan was built on an export-driven growth model. Throughout the 1960s and 70s, the Ministry of International Trade and Industry guided capital toward strategic sectors: steel, electronics, and automobiles. Companies like Toyota, Sony, and Honda revolutionized global supply chains through Kaizen, or continuous improvement. High domestic savings rates provided cheap capital for corporate expansion, while lifetime employment guaranteed a dedicated, highly disciplined workforce. By the 1980s, Japan was an unstoppable export juggernaut, terrifying Western competitors. This era proved that state-guided capitalism, combined with intense domestic competition and an undervalued currency, could rapidly propel a nation to the absolute forefront of global technology and manufacturing.
But this exponential growth planted the seeds of its own disruption. In 1985, the Plaza Accord forced the Japanese yen to appreciate rapidly, threatening export competitiveness. To offset this shock, the Bank of Japan slashed interest rates. What followed was one of the most spectacular asset bubbles in modern financial history. By the late 1980s, real estate and stock prices decoupled entirely from fundamental reality. At its peak, the grounds of the Imperial Palace in Tokyo were theoretically worth more than all the real estate in California. Corporations engaged in financial engineering rather than productive investment. It was an era of unprecedented wealth illusion, completely unsustainable and destined for a historic correction. In the early 1990s, the bubble violently burst. Stock and land prices collapsed, leaving banks and corporations with massive non-performing loans. This triggered what economist Richard Koo coined a balance sheet recession. Instead of borrowing to invest at zero interest rates, Japanese companies prioritized paying down debt to survive. This systemic deleveraging starved the economy of demand, plunging Japan into a prolonged period of deflation and sluggish growth known as the lost decades. Prices fell, wage growth stagnated, and consumer confidence evaporated. The state intervened with massive fiscal stimulus, building infrastructure to stimulate demand, which eventually pushed Japan's gross public debt to over 250% of its GDP.
Compounding the financial hangover was a demographic time bomb. Japan became the first major economy to transition into a hyper-aging society. A plummeting birth rate combined with the world's highest life expectancy resulted in a rapidly shrinking working-age population. Today, nearly 30% of Japan's population is over the age of 65. This demographic inversion creates severe macroeconomic constraints. A shrinking workforce limits potential GDP growth and drains national savings, while soaring healthcare and pension costs strain the government budget. The traditional model of growth through labor expansion is permanently broken. Japan is forced to navigate an economic reality that much of the developed world, including Europe and China, is only just beginning to face.
To combat deflation and a strong currency, Japan became the pioneer of unconventional monetary policy. Under Prime Minister Shinzo Abe's Abenomics, the Bank of Japan launched quantitative easing on an unprecedented scale. They pushed interest rates into negative territory and implemented yield curve control, essentially capping the yield on 10-year government bonds. The central bank expanded its balance sheet so aggressively that it became a top shareholder in a vast majority of Japanese publicly traded companies. While these extreme measures successfully weakened the yen and boosted corporate profits, they struggled to ignite sustained, robust wage growth. Japan's monetary experiment remains a controversial subject, highlighting the limits of central banking in an aging society.
Despite the prevailing narrative of decline, Japan's economic core remains exceptionally resilient. It is not simply a story of stagnation. Japan retains a formidable grip on critical nodes of the global supply chain. It is an absolute powerhouse in advanced manufacturing, precision engineering, and specialized chemicals. If you dismantle a high-end smartphone or a cutting-edge electric vehicle, you will find vital components that can only be sourced from highly specialized Japanese firms. Furthermore, Japan dominates the global robotics industry, manufacturing the complex industrial arms that assemble products worldwide. These hidden champions operate quietly in the background, generating massive high-margin revenues and proving that Japan's technological prowess has simply evolved, not vanished. Faced with a shrinking domestic market, corporate Japan shifted its strategy outward. Instead of just exporting goods made in Tokyo or Osaka, Japanese conglomerates began acquiring overseas companies and building factories directly in foreign markets. Today, Japan is the world's largest creditor nation, boasting massive holdings in foreign assets. The income generated from these overseas investments, dividends and interest payments, brings a colossal stream of wealth back to the island nation. This shift from an export-led economy to an investment-led economy explains why Japan maintains a robust current account surplus despite running occasional trade deficits. Japan has effectively become a global rentier, living off the yields of its vast international portfolio. Recognizing the vulnerabilities exposed by geopolitical tensions, Japan is now orchestrating a massive technological reinvention, starting with semiconductors. The government is deploying billions in subsidies to revive its domestic chip industry. A pivotal victory was securing Taiwan Semiconductor Manufacturing Company to build a massive advanced fabrication plant in Kumamoto, revitalizing Japan's Silicon Island. Additionally, state-backed consortiums like Rapidus are partnering with global tech giants to research and manufacture next-generation 2-nanometer logic chips domestically. By treating semiconductor capability as a matter of national security, Japan is positioning itself as a reliable, technologically advanced hub for the world's most critical hardware, buffering against supply chain disruptions in the Asia-Pacific region. To solve the labor shortage crisis without relying on mass immigration, Japan is turning to its greatest strength: automation. The nation is accelerating the deployment of artificial intelligence, automated guided vehicles, and service robots across all sectors of the economy. From automated convenience stores and robotic elder care assistants to fully autonomous heavy machinery in construction and agriculture, Japan is treating the lack of human workers as an engineering problem. This productivity reform is crucial. If Japan can successfully maintain or increase its economic output with a significantly smaller workforce, it will achieve a new paradigm of growth. The transition from manual labor to capital-intensive automation is not just an option, it is an existential necessity. Japan's reinvention also extends to geoeconomics. Following recent shifts in global security, Tokyo has pledged to double its defense spending, injecting massive capital into its domestic aerospace and defense industries. Simultaneously, the country is aggressively tackling its energy vulnerability. Lacking domestic fossil fuels, Japan is restarting its dormant nuclear reactors and heavily investing in hydrogen energy supply chains and next-generation battery technology. These strategic pivots aim to reduce reliance on volatile foreign markets. By aligning its economic policies with robust national security imperatives, Japan is shedding its post-war pacifist economic constraints, emerging as a more muscular, self-reliant player in the global geopolitical arena. Japan's economic journey, from a post-war miracle to a pioneer of the hyper-aging society, is a fascinating window into the future of global capitalism. It is not a story of failure, but one of profound adaptation. As nations across Europe and East Asia stare down their own demographic cliffs, Japan serves as the ultimate living laboratory. If it can successfully leverage automation, strategic reshoring, and financial innovation to maintain its prosperity, it will write the blueprint for the 21st century economy. Thank you for watching. If you found this deep dive into Japan's economy valuable, please hit the like button, subscribe to our channel, share this video with others, and let us know your thoughts in the comments below.